Jephthah, the apparently least deserving of all of the heroes of faith mentioned in Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 goes into God's Hall of Fame. We've got Abraham, later called Abraham. You've got Moses, you've got Joseph, you've got David. And amongst all these super special, awesome, amazing people, you have Jephthah in verse 31. And the people who don't say, "Who's he?" feel perturbed. They feel sick. Of all the heroes in the Bible who did terrible things, committing adultery, having multiple wives, being involved in wars with their own kids, murdering their mistresses, husbands, all this insane nonsense, like, sleeping with their daughter-in-law and getting her pregnant and then trying to burn her on a pike. The Bible's full of crazy people. But Jephthah, ugh, revolting. Or is he? I first encountered Jephthah's name when I was 16 years old. I was reading William Shakespeare's Hamlet for my leaving certificate examinations, which, for those of you who are not in Ireland, these are the big exams when you are in secondary school, which basically open the doorway to college or university for you. And Hamlet refers to Polonius as Jephthah. Now, Polonius is the father of Ophelia, Hamlet's love interest, and he uses her as a pawn in his power play, because he's trying to stay in King Claudius's good books and curry favour with the monarchy. And then in one of the footnotes, actually, it said that Jephthah was a man in the Bible who had sacrificed his daughter as a burning sacrifice unto God. And I remember reading this thinking, are you actually having a laugh? What? Now, I was an absolute utter noob to all things internet related when I was a teenager. The internet kind of became quite a big thing, I suppose, when I was a child. You couldn't have the telephone on and the computer at the same time. It was all very new. But it began to grow in popularity, but I was technologically deficient and illiterate for a number of years. So I did not know that you could just Google these things. Who is Jephthah? Search. But I had to scour the Word of God, my Bible, which is held together by Christmas sellotape, is a sign of a well-read Bible. And even the pages on the inside are falling apart, but it's all good. And I found Jephthah's story in Judges 11. So he fights against the king of Ammon. So you kind of know that these guys are devil worshippers. These enemies of Israel are absolutely in the throes of demonic worship and rituals and witchcraft. And, every society that's sold out for Satan wants the blood of children. It has always been true. It still is. So, the idea that God would use Jephthah as an instrument of judgment against the Ammonites, and then he would sacrifice his own daughter, you're like, what? This makes no sense. Like, was he not a godly man to begin with? It's all crazy. But you know what? Let's see what the Bible has to say about him. I'm not going to read all Judges 11, but if you want to, you can. Just pause this video and read up on it. But I'm going to start at verse 29. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. Is that something God tells us to do or not to do? Hello. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. Then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave him into his hands. He devastated 20 towns, from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel Keramim. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of tambourines. There's an exclamation point there, like tambourines? Shocking. Not really. She was an only child, and just in case you don't know what that means, the Bible then tells us, except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. So he has no mistresses on the side, no concubines, no bastard children, just one. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh, my daughter, you have made me a miserable and wretched man, because I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break, and it's your fault." I love that he's blaming her for what he did.
There's no need to get angry. Well, if I'm angry, it's your fault.
"My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised." Does she know what he promised? "Now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites. But grant me this one request," she said. "Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said. And he let her go for 2 months. She and the girls went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. After the 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed, and she was a virgin. From this comes the Israelite custom that each year the young women, virgins, of Israel would go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite. Right, okay. So, most English translations of the Bible pretty much say the same thing, okay? I've read this from the NIV. I've looked at many versions that kind of phrase the story incredibly similarly. But let's have a look at verse 31. When it says, "Whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me," whatever is the Hebrew word asher. It's a great word. We use it in Ireland all the time. Asher, would you look? Asher, would you stop? Asher, look it. Asher, it is what it is. Irish people love Asher. It's almost as automatic a response to us as grand. Be grand. I'm grand. Asher, it's grand. But Asher does mean whatever. It means what? It means that. It also means who. So when you read "whatever comes out of my house," it sounds like he's anticipating an animal running out of his house. Now, I don't know. Did he have like 100,000 pets living in his house? Did he let cows and pigs, donkeys and goats just walk in and out? I hope not. That would be pretty unclean and unsanitary. So what if Bible translators have made an error here? Instead of writing "whatever," what if it should be "whoever"? Now you might think, Brendan, that's worse. Relax. Pace yourselves. Calm down. I'm going somewhere with this. Let's assume it's "whoever." "Whoever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's. And I will sacrifice it," which will be him or her, "as a burnt offering." Now, at this point, you're like, "Brendan, that is even more terrible. That's worse than killing an animal, or vowing to kill potentially an animal." But a burnt offering in Hebrew is "olah." Think of, like, Spanish people. "Hola!" Dora the Explorer. But it's not necessarily a burnt offering. "Olah" in Hebrew has 2 meanings. Yes, one is to go up in smoke, to sacrifice something as a burnt offering to the Lord. Grain, animals, peace offerings, whatever. It also means to physically, naturally, with your legs, go up, to ascend. So what if, instead of "I'll sacrifice it," him or her, as a burnt offering, what if it should actually be translated, "I'll sacrifice it as an ascension offering. I'll sacrifice it as a dedication offering." Rather than promising to set someone or something on fire, what if he's actually saying, "I'll sacrifice it insofar as I will relieve myself of it. I'll pass it on to the Lord. I'll dedicate it unto the Lord, in service to the Lord, in servitude in the tabernacle of God, where the high priest and the priests would work. And we know that there were women working in the tabernacle, because in 1 Samuel, it tells us that the high priest Eli's sons were sleeping with the women there. So we know that there were women in service there, women who were not getting married and were not having children, but their intimacies, like the angels, were with the Lord entirely and exclusively. Because her reaction is quite a strange one. It's like, hey daughter, I'm going to set you on fire. Oh no, and I have never slept with a man, no daddy. Really? Really? Like, was she that horny? Was she that desperate to give her end away that meant more to her than, like, literally being killed by her dad?
I didn't become a little bit of a slag. I became a total slag.
If you two don't mind, I'm going to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea to get us killed. Or worse, expelled.
She needs to sort out her priorities.
I mean, in Genesis, you've got Judah, who sleeps with his son's betrothed, gets her pregnant with twins, and is like, set her on fire! And that's another story, it's more drama. But I've got a Bible video on that too, you can find it here. But what if actually she's saying, oh my goodness, I'm your only child. You have no one else. After this, our bloodline gets cut off. After this, there are no Jephthah Juniors. This is the end of our bloodline. History, for us, ends with this. With your death, with my death. There's no one to carry on our name. There's no one to carry on our legacy. Because as it goes on, she doesn't mention once that she's going to be killed. Her fear and her terror and her pain, her anguish seems to be, wow, I wanted to get married and that's not going to happen. I'd have loved to have been a mother and now I never will be. And then even at the very end, it became an annual tradition for girls to go into the hills for 4 days, because, an 8-week long holiday would have been very expensive. But they're not crying necessarily because she died. We're just told they were commemorating her. And who was commemorating her? The young women of Israel, the virgins of Israel. So it's not actually that they were upset that she'd been murdered by her father. Maybe they were just heartbroken that everything she wanted pivoted so drastically, and it wasn't her decision. Everything that she wanted was suddenly taken from her. All of her hopes and plans had suddenly been seized upon because of arrangements she wasn't even part of. And that God had not decreed, that God had not demanded. It was all initiated by her father. So a lot of people, have read this story over the years and just thought to themselves, oh my goodness, Jephthah is the worst father in the Bible. But what if we've just been misreading it? What if it's just been a mistranslation? What if actually he was not half as bad as we made him out to be? And I think that would probably make people more comfortable with his inclusion in Hebrews 11. So they are just my thoughts. Take from that what you will, but write in the comment section below what you think. Do you think the translators have it right? They can't all possibly be wrong. Or do you think actually the translation that they've chosen has perhaps done the Word of God a disservice? I know, for instance, back when I was a teenager and I was in class reading this, I know that there were classmates who instinctively thought, oh my goodness, the Bible must be a really evil book if, God's people were doing this. Ugh. So let me know what you think. I'm interested. I'm not saying that one is right, one is wrong, but actually I feel more peace, I think, about Ola being and then really serve in the service of God rather than to the pyre. Alright, but they're just my thoughts. Let me know yours. Have the best day, guys. And what follows are a couple advertisements for events that we've got coming up for Open House Ministries over the next number of weeks. One is Radiant Conference, which is a women's conference, where there's going to be teaching, live worship, praise, one-to-one ministry, deliverance. And then what follows is an advertisement for our second Irish revival, taking place on Saturday, the 15th of November, in the Gateway Hotel in Dundalk. Both are going to be lit, and I hope to see you at both of them. Blessings.
When I started on this journey was my own deliverance. I always thought that I was in minority.
Yeah.
So I was dealing with obviously physical abuse.
Yes.
I was dealing with sexual abuse, rape.
Yeah.
And actually, it's astonishing, not in a good way, how many people actually have the same story. And so when I share my testimony, my aim is to give permission to be open, give that safety to be open, and reassurance and point to Jesus and to say, you know, yes, we can't deny the past.
Yes.
But that past doesn't define us because Jesus takes the mess and he turns it into mess.
Come on, let's say this, yes.
So, and then you take the message out and then you speak to people from that.
Yeah.
And that encourages them to walk it out.
So true.
Because we're coming back. Guys, we're coming back.
Yes, we
We're
are.
coming back on the 15th of November. Different location.
Yeah.
A little bit easier to get to.
Yes.
So that's bonus. But we're coming back. And actually, you know, the beauty is that now lots of the people who came to see us for the revival day are now going to be on team and serving others. And this is what makes me really, really so passionate about what we're doing.
Yes.
Just to see that, you know, you receive, you freely receive, and now you're freely giving.
Yes.
So that's awesome.